Obviously, training camp preseason in the books. What's the energy and excitement level of this team heading into tonight?
Yeah, really excited. I mean, it's always fun to get into the first one, and it's a long camp. It's a lot of practices, a lot of preseason games, and this is why we go through it all, is to get out there tonight for the first game.
You talked a little bit about the Penguins' tendencies. When you guys are prepping for tonight's game, what are some of the things they do well and what you're hoping to do against them?
Yeah, just a good veteran team, a lot of high skill players. But we know they played last night, which I think is a key to get our legs into the game early. They've kind of already had that taste, but sometimes the back-to-backs can be hard early in the year.
You're on a line with Vladdy and Kaner, and just kind of the chemistry of that line and where you guys mesh well together.
Yeah, I think that we've continued to grow and get to know each other throughout camp, and the more reps we take together, for me, it's two very high-skilled players that can make plays and can score. So just kind of trying to complement those guys, and I think we know that forechecking and getting the puck back can be important so we can go get those chances on offense.
Last one for me, just yourself personally, what are you kind of focusing on and hoping to kind of evolve your game to take that step to this season?
Yeah, I think you don't want to try and do too much first game of the year. You just want to play my game and get used to the roles and playing with different guys, and I'm excited for the year. I think you always want to take a step forward as a player, and I think I have a good opportunity to do that.
Thanks, JT.
Playing that kind of gritty baseball and unconventional baseball with the way they're rolling with their pitching staff, but it seems to be working, and the confidence it seems like it's really high in that room.
Growing up in that household, did you find yourself becoming a bigger baseball fan than maybe someone else would have been?
Yeah, I mean, it gave us the opportunity to see a lot of games at Tiger Stadium and then over at Comerica Park. So I would say I was always a big hockey fan, but equally as much a fan of baseball as well.
I know you're only focused on tonight's game, but Derek and a couple of guys have mentioned is the tough October schedule that you guys have and having to navigate through it. Is that all going to focus at all, or getting off to a good start?
I mean, we've obviously talked about our starts, and like you said, our focus is to make sure we have a strong performance tonight, and I mean, I think everybody knows the schedule that we do have, but like I said, I think that's something that we've seen, but obviously the main focus is tonight against Pittsburgh, and then kind of building from there.
Derek has talked a lot about kind of being stronger defensively this season. Does it feel like it's different this year in terms of just your approach and the emphasis?
I mean, I think there's an emphasis, a little bit more of an emphasis, some slight changes in the system-wise, and I think the message is kind of similar to what it was last year. We have guys that can put the puck in the net. We have the skill up front to get that done. So our main focus is to make sure we're strong defensively, keeping the puck out of our net, and getting it up to those guys so they can do their thing.
A lot of talk about the motivation, the disappointment of last year, but you guys can't be thinking about that right now. You got to get to that point again.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, last year was last year, and now it's we're a little bit of a different group in here this year, and I think everybody's motivated to have a strong start and make sure that we're a consistent hockey team. I think. One thing we did learn from last year was we went through some stretches where we weren't playing our best hockey, and I think learning from that and making sure that we're bringing a consistent game on a daily basis, I think will help us this year.
Derek, how much can you take out of seeing a team play the night before they see you, and what do you look for?
A little bit on some structure. We've seen Pittsburgh enough for the last couple of years, twice in the preseason. They probably don't show everything as far as like what you can show set-wise, face-offs, set breakouts and stuff, but it was a good look. It'll just build on top of what we already know from the team.
Is there a challenge to, you guys have been off from competitive games for almost a week. They're coming off one last
Yeah.
night. I assume that's a challenge for you guys.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a challenge there. They'll probably have some rhythm by just playing last night. It's just different. I also think it's going to be a huge challenge in that it'll be an extremely motivated team. They're way too well coached. They've won too much. They have a lot of pride in that room. We'll definitely get their best tonight.
Does that affect how you practice the days before the game, as far as how intense and hard the practices are when you're playing a team that's played the night before?
No. That's usually about us. And I think you're going to start seeing within the NHL, you're going to get a lot of back-to-backs. 2 years ago, I think we had 15. We had 11 last year. A lot of us East Coast, Midwest teams will lead the league in back-to-backs, which is the reality of it. One, where we're located geographically. Two, if we're a TV draw, and it's the reality of it. And you go with it. What you find is, I don't think that back-to-back is as taxing as you may think. There's some reality to it. I think maybe sometimes when a team's a little bit flat in a back-to-back, it's combined with some travel, maybe the front load of that week. So I don't think there's a whole lot to the back-to-back. So we don't prepare any differently. We know we're getting a really good team, a team just like last year we expect to be battling with for those playoff spots down the stretch. It's an important game.
Derek, when you have three goalies like you do, you sort of take advantage of that in terms of getting the proper rest for goalies, or is it hard to resist, playing the hot goalie, the guy that's...
Yeah, it's good balance in that. Again, we're playing to win every single night with a little bit of an eye on down the road. So there's some times where, it's just a reality. A lot of, no matter what in this league, even when you have the Vasilevskis and the Cirkins of the world, that backup is getting a scheduled 20-plus games. So there's some of that. But again, we're trying to play to win every night. And with the three goalies, we're confident all three of them right now.
Is there anything to read into how you back up, who you pick to back up and dress?
Yeah, there's a little of that,
Okay.
especially early on. We want to
Yeah.
keep that person in rhythm. Even last year, it was a different situation where Alex was probably a distant third. We still backed him up in a few games, just again part of our routine and the rhythm. So yeah, there's a purpose to that.
You've mentioned a couple times that some of the line combinations maybe came together during camp a little bit quicker than you might have expected. Do you feel like there's a certain benefit there as far as getting
Maybe
off
a
the
little
ground?
bit, but since the way we're built sometimes, I think it's going to be fluid. As much as you love some of our talented forwards that guys are probably lined up banging in my office because they want to play with them, sometimes it's the wear on you in that you have to do a little more of the work over 200 feet, which is just a reality of the way some of those players are. So I just think our lines will be very fluid throughout. Even a Berggren, kind of not quite, he just kind of sticks out on his identity being on the bottom. There's times we may get him up to give an offensive boost. There will be some times you might see a Rass or a Fisher, even a Villano give a burst or a boost maybe to the top six, which you saw a little bit last year. So I like the fact that we have some flexibility with our lineup.
You go from basically playing a game every night for a week, and granted it was preseason, so it wasn't the same group every night, but now you've gone almost a week without a game. How do you balance that during the week preparation for the game without giving them some rest?
That's real. There's probably going to be a little rust tonight, which is, I don't know how you can avoid. You hope that rust is masked by just pure effort. So there's a little bit of that. And we need to play. It's just, the schedule worked out the way it was. A ton of practice. The guys are grumpy in a good way. They want to play. We've practiced a lot. Training camp's been very intense. So they're ready to play. So I'm interested to see. You're always curious. There's always a lot of anxiety on game one on how you're going to come out and look. There's so many things that go into it. But the one thing I want to be able to control beyond our execution is our effort, our compete level.
usually assuming that they on a back-to-back go with Bloomquist and then a rookie hasn't had a situation like this on opening night, someone else is building. How can you best take advantage of that?
I don't think it's taking advantage of it. He might have an unbelievable performance. He looks pretty darn ready from what we saw in the preseason, what he did in the American Hockey League last year. Again, I think whoever you're playing, it's still being hard on goalies, taking their time and space, taking their eyes. Would love some shot volume. We're not traditionally a very shot volume team, but sometimes that helps you break them down. So I don't know if it's necessarily the goalie. It's still, I think, some more habits to create some offense.
When you say you're not a shot volume team, is that because you want higher quality looks, or what exactly?
A little bit of both. I think there's a little DNA. I mean, you guys watch Carolina, the robots. You know, they come out of the locker room, on the bench, out of the Zamboni, and the puck's going on the net. And it's predictable and it works for them. I would like some of that at times where it's a little more predictable, but you also don't want to take away some of the DNA of our talent. You know, I'm sure Patrick Kane could have spent his entire year rifling bad angle shots on net, and I don't think he may have been where he is today. So there's a little bit of a balance there, but I think there is something to shot volume, having people defend rebounds. So there's always a balance for us. And again, it's you know, we're always kind of pushing that because we have a little of that playmaking, which is a quality too.
Just a follow-up, just because you brought up Carolina. They're a team that's been very successful,
Yep.
been in the playoffs. We hear all the time it's a copycat sport. Like, why do they continue to be an outlier? Just because you brought them up.
I don't know if it's an outlier,
Yeah.
or it's just I think it's an identity
Yeah.
that they've really bought into. You know, there's, you know, you even talk to some of the players, are like, they enjoy the system, but it's hard. And it's just different. I wouldn't say it's a copy outlier. And I don't like really talking about other teams. That's a really good team. That's extremely structured and detailed. It's just an identity. And it's a good example for us at times when we're not getting to the hard area or we're trying to be too complicated in our offense. I think just simplifying it sometimes can be a positive.
Just on tonight with Sullivan. How well have you gotten to know him in the past? I don't know if you've ever worked with him. Have you
Yeah,
seen
not a
him?
whole
Yeah.
lot. Obviously, you know who he is. Respect his career. You know, American-born coach. Doesn't seem to be a lot of them. You know, over at World Championships this year, he came over, so I got to spend some time with him. So I don't really have a huge relationship with him. Just a typical respect, and obviously, I have a huge respect for what he's done in this league. And you know, people just look at him as one of the top elite coaches in the league, but he was on his way out of this league too. He had to reinvent himself. He went from being head coach to player development to coaching the American Hockey League, and what a lesson on perseverance. And now he's at the top of his game. I like to watch the way their teams play. You know, talk about copycat. You know, I watch a lot of them just reloading, being above when they're really dialed in.
Do you think as a head coach, and like I think Max asked you the other day about like what you've learned in 3 years, but like is part of it like figuring out those little reinventions you have to figure out every day as a coach?
It could be. I think
Yeah.
keeping things fresh. I mean, it's a reality of our league sometimes. It's a different NHL. You need to communicate. You need to give instant feedback. The bully coach, right or wrong or indifferently, no longer has a place in this league. So you got to communicate and motivate the right way. It's a challenge, especially with our current landscape. I believe I'm the 6th longest tenured coach in the league, and it feels like I just started yesterday. So it's different, but the good coaches find a way to keep guys motivated and keep things fresh.
You mentioned the whole tenure, you being the 6th longest tenured coach, with Mike Sullivan and John Cooper, who I know you know very well. What do you think has enabled them to stick around so long and keep those jobs and keep in?
Oh, they evolve. Like, you know, people just see. I mean, you can go like, you know, I think the ignorant fan will be like, well, they have Sidney Crosby, Nikita Kucherov. Of course, that helps, but those guys evolve. And what I liked about learning from John Cooper many things is how hard he works, and just getting to know that Boston Mafia, if you will, the Mike Sullivan, but working with John Hines and David Quinn the last couple of years. I would say Mike and John have an unbelievable work ethic. They work just as hard and maybe even harder in the off season, staying at the top of this profession, and even talk with Mike, 'cause he reads a ton. Same with Coop. Like, there's a reason these guys are at the top of our profession. They've stayed there for a while. It's certainly a lesson for me.
From a nerves standpoint, if you can just look at your third opening night here compared to your first, how you're feeling coming in?
It was always, you're always anxious about the opening night because so much goes into it. They're all different. I will say I've been very excited in all three, and that speaks a lot on the group. But even, this is even a little more exciting, maybe a little more anxious, because we've created different expectations, which is a positive. We have to take that step. Well, we're here now, and we'll see how we handle it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.